and player agency in this game. You tell me what you want. You tell me about your character. You tell me about the world. So we're going to, as a group, decide on those things. We've already decided that there's one moon which has the mines, and the mines are dangerous. So the moon rotates every, we don't know yet how many hours, but at a certain point, half the time it's like facing the planet or whatever planet it is. I don't think it's your home planet, but that planet initiates so much radiation that the mines are dangerous for half the time. Now, we haven't decided if your houses are all on the same planet or different planets, and we'll discuss that. So
Yeah, I mean, if our
again,
origins are different, that leaves a lot of openings for like which houses we play. But I imagine there's something that has to draw us onto the same setting at least,
I
right?
don't think you're going to play the major houses. So you
Yeah,
guys are going to be from your own custom houses. And you're that way you have the freedom. You're not dragging along any kind of baggage of another house. And you have the freedom to design why your houses don't like each other. And I think we're trying to jointly tell a story. This is a huge difference between other role-playing systems and the Burning Wheel. We are really trying to tell a joint story together. And the mechanics will be such that we can make this story really interesting. So we want drama, any character background that offers the maximum amount of drama. That's what we want.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So right now we are gonna decide on, are you all from different planets? Are you all from the same planet? And we also need to come up with why you don't like the other houses. I was also thinking that since the Harkonnens are coming, it might be interesting to have one of you actually be a Harkonnen or a slave or a subject of the Harkonnen. That might be interesting. But again, this is all player agency. So if nobody wants to do that, we don't have to do that. I'm just brainstorming what would be interesting, what would be dramatic. It would
So
also
for are we
that
do we will we ultimately be on Arrakis though? Is that the plan? Like we can come from different places, but we're ending up there.
I don't think you guys will ever get to Arrakis. I think it's
Okay.
all going to happen locally. The prequel that we've kind of decided on, and we're open to change, but the prequel is that you guys have all this hatred going on, right? You guys are having all these challenges happening, and all of a sudden the Harkonnens come into your space and they've decided to usurp that mine because what your mines do, you mine it for this material. It's like the fuel additive, and it makes ships 15% more efficient. So it's like, that old fuel additive you used to dump in your truck or whatever. That's what this is. And the Harkonnen said, hey, let's muscle in on this. It's becoming popular now. Let's steal some of it. Why not?
So I guess when it comes to the skills and stuff on the sheet, are we like do we assume that like proficiency with swordplay or marksmanship like is within the context of the Dune world where there's like shields and like or are those specific skills unique to the campaign?
There
Like the
are
weirding
going to
way, is it
be, so
assumed that all fighters are weirding fighters?
there is a book called Burning Jihad that we're going to use. I'm also open to using the Burning Empires book, but we're going to take skills from there. But there will be shields. There's going to be all of the Dune things are going to exist. The weirding way is going to exist. In fact, Bruce's character's wife is a Bene Gesserit. She's a heretic from the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit hater. And we also established that Jerry's character, he has a relationship with a woman from his house who is a Fremen. So we're gonna talk about that. But so the basics of the world is that the Harkonnens are coming into your sector of space, and they are trying to start mining on your planet without permission, right? On that moon. And you guys are afraid, like, you know that you need to do something to get them the fuck on out of there, because otherwise they're gonna just take all your profit and kick you guys to the curb. So it's something that you guys are going to have to work together to overcome. So here's what we've determined, that Bruce is allied to this house, and oh no, Bruce's character is a noble lord of a house, but he's super young. And he's married, and he has a lord. The thing about his house is they are extravagantly wealthy. So most people resent their house because they're so wealthy. They throw money at problems. They look down on people. They're like the gentry, right? And then Braden's character was there was just a war between their houses. So Braden's character and Bruce's character's houses just went to war, and Braden's character came out on top. And the reason that they came out on top was Braden's character has this sort of military genius. He's got a flair for it, for tactics. And so that's why they don't like each other. That's one of the reasons. Now, I'm trying to find reasons why each character hates another character, right? So we have that strife going on, that internal strife. And then the strife between Jerry's character, who's a mentat, and Bruce's character is that Jerry's lord has taken so much spice that he's lost the ability to reproduce, which is critical for him because he doesn't have an heir. And he also has bouts of madness. And in one of his bouts of madness, they were trying to align themselves to Jerry's house. So, to Bruce's house. So Bruce's character's sister went over there to perhaps align a marriage to try to make their houses unite. But the Lord went into a fit of rage and he raped and murdered Bruce's sister. So that is the hatred there. And what else? Oh, and then there's hatred between Bruce's house and, oh, not Bruce's, Jerry's house and Braden's house, because Jerry's house, the Mad Lord, said, hey, they're all preparing for war against each other. Now's the time to steal from them. Like, they're so focused on each other. Let's go steal a bunch of their ammunition and shit. So they went down right before the battle, and right before the first battle, and they stole a bunch of supplies that were sitting on the planet because they didn't expect the other house to come in. And because of that, Braden's character lost the first battle, and a lot of his army died. And that's when Bruce's house swooped in for the kill, but Braden was able to pull it out and manage a victory, which won them the war. But Braden's house does not forget that treachery of Bruce's house. So that is the drama that's happening right now. And now we need to focus on your two characters to learn about your houses, why you hate the other houses, who your lord is, because you're probably not going to be the major noble. You're going to be younger people starting out. You're, I think it's too soft, not edgy enough. If you're like the leader of a house, it's much
Yeah.
better if you're like lower level than
Can
that.
we be members of any of the other players' existing houses?
You could be, but I
Because
would then need to know how where the tension is.
I say
What
I
is better? What's the tension? Maybe secretly you're a traitor of that house. If you are a member of that house, maybe you've been bought out by another house because of X reason. So at the end of the day, once we come up with all this drama, your beliefs are going to flow from that. So if you don't have good drama, you won't have good beliefs. You don't want to have a belief like, oh, I want to get wealthy. That's such a dumb belief. It's like there's no pun intended, spice behind that. We want a belief where you were betrayed or fucked over or one of your friends died. Like it has to be
yeah.
important.
So I guess what I was saying is, can we like kind of piggyback onto an existing tension in the party, or do we need to all have independent central tensions from one another?
No, you know what? Give me a good story. You can come at whatever angle you want. Give me a good juicy story for a novel and we'll run with it.
so I'm glad he asked that question because I've been when I was coming up with the character idea, I had the character idea that I wanted, and then listening to the two sessions, I figured out how I was going to weave my character in. It was Jared's character that was the military, like
Brady,
the Braden's. Okay, so
the only leg in our group. He
yeah.
was a civilian. So
Going to don't I got it. Okay. I did it in the dark last week. I can do it dark again this week.
Do a good job. Thank you. Bye.
So the character idea that I had was I don't know, and you guys are gonna have to work with me because I don't know anything about the Dune universe. What information I have of the Dune universe is because I can so heavily correlate it to Warhammer 40k.
have you
So
seen any of the Dune movies?
nope, I haven't seen the movies. I haven't read the books. Like I know
Okay.
nothing about the Dune world except it very heavily correlates to Warhammer 40k, i.e., your Mentats, the God Emperor. He's literally called the God Emperor in Dune. So I I have heavily like the um the war against AI correlating the same way it does kind of in 40k. That's my understanding of Dune is how
As a
I'm
big fan of both, you're not terribly off base to see the parallels. There's a lot.
There is a lot of parallels in between the two that I can kind of like the sisters and the way they kind of have that psychic power. They're just the psychers. That's all they are. It's just a different power source and yada yada yada. But anywho, the character idea that I was having was in Braden's house. I was a soldier, but as a soldier, I gained the reputation for being unnaturally brutal to victims, foes, civilians alike. Just an unkeen brutality to it. Almost as if as a person enjoying just bloodshed. It didn't matter who it came from, it was bloodshed.
Then let me ask you, what happened to you in your past to give you this?
So that's what
Because I
haven't.
see that's going to be obviously a core belief of yours, and I want to explore it. I want to know why. What is the reasoning behind that?
Well, and that's I can it's gonna be where I'm going with it. I'm if it works in the Dune universe, I don't know fully is gonna be there, but not as much as you think. So
Like you're a good candidate to be the Harkonnen player if we're going with that route too.
that is a word that I do not know what it means.
Okay, the Harkonnens are like the evil. They are like the evil people. So right now in Dune, let me give you an overview of Dune because I think that's important.
Yeah.
So right now, what's happening in the Dune universe is that there is these creatures that are bred that can fold space. And that is how civilization started. So when I say civilization, I'm talking about being able to travel amongst the planets. So the only way to do that is by folding space. Even if you have a spaceship, you cannot do interstellar travel in Dune. You must travel your spaceship to this giant spaceship in which these creatures can fold space to take you from one sector of space to another. And that is controlled by the Spacing Guild. And these creatures can only do it because they subsist on this one substance called the spice. And the spice only comes from one planet, and that planet is called Arrakis. Now, right now, there's a saying amongst the Space Guild and all the houses that the spice must flow because without the spice, there'll be no space travel and civilization will end because people won't be able to do interstellar space travel. So the spice must flow. And right now in the game world, their Harkonnens are fucking things up. On Arrakis, the spice is starting to not flow because there's people on this planet called the Fremen, and they live in the desert, and they are rebelling against the Harkonnen harsh rule, causing the spice not to flow. So that is the dilemma that's happening right now.
Okay. Um.
And the
Okay.
Harkonnens are, if you're brutal, that is the trait of being a Harkonnen, is massive brutality. And it could be that you don't know any other way to be because you were raised among the Harkonnen, but I'd still like to find some a great belief is driven just like in storytelling. A great story or character comes from not just, oh, there's a written thing that he does or she does. It's what is the justification? What does that come from? Were you tortured as a slave? What made you so brutal? You know, if somebody's picked on a lot, that's a lot of these mass shooters or mental health problems. They were either picked on a lot in life. I think that happened with the shooter in the 82nd too. That one guy in the 90s, he was everybody said he was a pussy or whatever, and whatever happened to him, he flipped the switch and he decided to shoot people at PT. But mass shooters, I think, tend to have that kind of problem. So we don't want to know just that you're brutal. We want you to understand why.
Okay.
There's another option
Um,
too. You could be like a Sardukar, which are like the Imperial, like special ops, like highly lethal, badass unit too. That's another option.
Okay. I'll have to think a little bit more on that as we're coming up with the character.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But that just puts you in the mind of how deep your beliefs have to go for them to be excellent. Like when you have a really juicy belief, and in the game, you can change your belief. You will change your beliefs every session, just not drastically. But you can have a moment in the game where you're awarded, I don't want to call it experience, it's really called Arthur, but you can be rewarded this high Arthur reward for violating your beliefs for a good reason. So you could come to this epiphany where you say, wow, like I don't believe this anymore. I'm gonna sacrifice my beliefs to help this one person, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll say I'll have to think about that a little bit more and do a little bit more looking into it. Because I watched some videos and I like of the burning wheel mechanics because this is all foreign to me. I've never even heard of this game until you
Oh,
pointed it
dude.
out to me.
It takes a while to wrap the burning wheel around your head around it. But all I will say is that once you do, it's such an amazing game. So give it the chance to take hold. And just remember that the tools in the game are used for us to jointly tell a story. So it isn't about picking a lock, or you might not even you might a group combat could come down to one single roll because it's not really important to the story.
Yeah.
Depends on how important. If it's super important to the story, that's when what's called the rim mechanics come out because
Mm-hmm.
it's so dramatic and important to character beliefs, and character beliefs drive the story. So instead of me saying, hey, you're in a bar and you all meet, what do you do? What do you do now? I don't, that's not how the game is played. The game is played, I will go to each one of you in turn and I will say, what belief do you want to try to accomplish today? And then you're going to tell me intent. Here's my intent that I want to see happen. Here's my task, how I'm going to do it. Now, I'm not going to let you pick the skill. I'm going to make you role play it out. And based upon the way you role play it, that's the skill I'm going to tell you you're using. So you might tell me, hey, I'm going to try to persuade this person to do what I need them to do. But then you go out and start fucking lying to them. I'm going to say, oh, no, you're using falsehood. That's what you're not trying to persuade them. You're just outright lying to them. So you're using falsehood. You're going to make a falsehood test. Now, the
So
other great thing is that it doesn't matter. There are no classes in the game. So the skills that you use, you get better at. Even if you don't have them, you can do open the skill. So you can make all these tests against a skill and open it. Now, you open skills not by getting XP, you get open skills by making tests. You can fail the test. Most tests. There are a couple of quirky tests that you can't fail and raise. One is your money. There is no money in the game. It's a stat. And to get more money in the game, you need to raise the stat. And you can't fail. You can fail, but you'll never raise the stat by failing. So that's an unusual stat. Same thing with the perception stat, but only a few stats are like that. Every other stat, it doesn't matter if you fail or succeed, that's a test, and it's going to help to raise your skill up.
so it seems like in a system like that, there's not really a lot of incentive to like metagame and try to think about party balance in any way, because it seems like we're going to be doing that in reaction to things as we play. So we don't need
Yeah,
like a
no, in
fighter
fact,
or a
you,
marksman or anything like that.
not only that, in this game, there's PvP. So you can help a character. You can give one of your dice in a test. So let's say it's Bruce's turn. He wants to do this, and your character's thinking, shit, if he accomplishes this, he's going to fuck me over. His house is going to be too powerful. I don't want him to accomplish this. I have a belief against that. So I'm going to give a dice to his enemy. I'm going to go in there and try to fuck this deal up for him.
Okay, so is one of the central things of the game that we are opposed to one another, or because I thought I was under the impression that we were bound together against a common enemy in some way. But
You
are we
are. You
okay?
are.
So there's
There's
both.
lots of drama available there. That's the quirk. You hate each other, but you've got to work together. But that doesn't mean you're not going to fuck each other over in small ways if it's going to hurt your house. Shit, if Bruce's character does this deal, my house is fucked. I'm going to interfere with this. I'm going
And
to
so I
give it
guess
to the enemy.
so I guess we're all committed to like kind of not metagaming about that, because if we know that like, oh, this person's an espionage expert, well, if everybody at the table knows that, like we
Your
have to role
characters
play.
will probably know that.
Okay.
Your your characters will probably know what they're famous for, what their reputations are. You know what? Play the game. Make the story as interesting as possible. And if you have to, die a spectacular death. Hopefully you don't, Hopefully you'll come out and you'll come on top. But the game is all about let's jointly create the most amazing story. And the way that'll work is, so let's say it's Bruce's turn. And Bruce tells me, here's the goal I want to work on. And then everybody else decides whether they want to help, stay out of the way, be an abstentia, or hinder. So you can do one of those three. Now, if you help or hinder, I don't know about hindering. This is a good thing. If you help, for sure, you will share in the consequences of failure. So when someone fails to do things, you don't, if you go up to pick a lock and the consequence of picking a lock means that you're all sitting outside the door and you don't know what to do now, that will never happen. Because it's my job to make sure that the consequences never stop the story. So you might fail to pick the lock, but you're gonna pick that fucking lock. It's just that the consequences might be story driven. So they might not have to do anything about the lock. It might not. It might be that they now know. I might say, and I do this before you roll, so you understand the consequences of failure. I tell you before you roll, if you fail to pick that lock, they know that you're coming in that door. They had a spy in your group that's already told them, and they're waiting for you. And I'm going to try to pick, and I'll work with you. I'll say, guys, work with me. What do you think the consequences of failure should be? And we want to come up with the best story narrative for the consequences of failure.
Peter?
Jerry, how
Peter,
are
can you hear me?
Yep, totally. Welcome aboard. We're 100% paratrooper driven here because Braden couldn't make it tonight.
I'm sorry to hear that. All right, so for instance, if you're in front of the door, you're going to try to pick it. Maybe if it takes too long, or if you pick it and it sets off an alarm, or if there's somebody behind the door and you made too much noise and you alerted them. So you're talking about factors other than picking the lock that can work against you and maybe reveal you if you're not careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just asking.
It could also be,
Okay.
it could also be some other, it should somewhat, I would say, loosely tie around the lock, but it may not have to be. It could be that, maybe you're trying to persuade somebody, and I'll tell you that for whatever reason, if you fail this persuasion test, there's like a spy within your group, so I'm going to try to come up with, it shouldn't be too random, but it should enhance the story. That's the most important part. Does the consequence of failure enhance the gameplay, enhance the story, make it more interesting?
So everyone has their own goals. Some people are trying to survive. Other people are trying to screw over other people. Some people are just trying to go about their business, and everybody has their own individual sort of goals and plots and whatnot. Is that correct?
Yes, because I don't drive the story like in a normal role-playing game. You guys drive the story. It's my job to throw obstacles in your way and roadblocks and challenge you. It's called, I am trying to challenge your beliefs and change them. I'm trying to make it so hard to accomplish your beliefs that you give up on them. But as the game progresses, you guys get more and more powerful where you do accomplish your beliefs. So and you get persona for role playing well. And these there's fate, persona, and deeds. Those are called Artha. So you get Artha for role playing well, for pursuing your beliefs, and for accomplishing your beliefs. And you get this crazy Artha called a deed when you do something like a major part of your belief is accomplished, or you sacrifice your belief to help someone else.
Is that a gradual accumulation, or can it be very abrupt?
It's gradual. It can be. It's usually, I'm never going to give out a deed in the beginning of the game. So normally you get a deed because we played many sessions, and let's say you have a belief that my brother is the chief noble in the house and he's an asshole, and I am going to take him down so my sister can take over because my brother is an idiot and he's fucking the whole house up. So I am going to, my first minor objective, or so you'll have like your belief might be a sentence, right? And then the second sentence, the first sentence will be the long-term portion. The second sentence will be the midterm portion. And the third sentence for a single belief is going to be, what am I going to try to accomplish this very game session? And that's what's called an actionable belief. I need actionable beliefs from you because otherwise it's too vague. We don't know where you're going. So now tying back in, to get a deed, my midterm belief might be to turn the church against, I'm just using a generic example, non-Dune. I'm going to turn the church against my brother. That's a mid-level goal. If I'm able to do that after 10 or 12 sessions, I might get a deed for that because I'd worked so hard at it and I finally done it. But in a session, if I only work towards something and I don't accomplish it, I'll get fate. That's the lowest form of Artha. If I role play a funny moment, I'll get fate. If I use one of my traits or my instincts and they get me into trouble, I'll get a fate. If they don't get you into trouble, you don't get a fate. And if I use one of my beliefs and I accomplish it, so even it's a small belief, I'm going to influence the church. So my actionable goal this session is I'm going to meet with one of the priests. I'm going to meet with a low-level priest and try to befriend him. That's what I'm doing here. So I haven't turned the church yet. It's a minor goal, right? So I go to do that. If I do it, I'm going to award you a fate for pursuing it and a persona for accomplishing it. And then
this is based on rolling? I'm sorry, this is based on rolling of and these decisions are based on the rolling of the dice, correct?
Yeah, so a fate will allow you, if you spend a fate, you will be allowed to re-roll one or more sixes in an attempt. So let's say everything's a D6. So I'm going to try to persuade this priest that we're friends. I'm going to try to make him a friend. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go there and I'm just going to try to schmooze him up. Seduction. I'm going to use seduction to just befriend him. If I accomplish that, if I make my roll, well, let's say I miss the roll by one, but one of the rolls that I have is a 6. I can spend a fate, and if I do, it will allow me to roll another dice for another chance at success. If I have 2 6s, I still only have to spend one fate, and I'll be able to re-roll, not re-roll, because those 6s will still count as successes. I'll get 2 more dice to roll. And to get a success, you need a 4, 5, or 6. So if you get a 4, 5, or a 6, that's a success. But a 6 can be open-ended if you spend a single fate. You get to not re-roll, you'll get a number of extra dice to roll based on how many 6s you have. if that makes sense. And if one of those dice comes up a 6, it'll automatically explode. You'll get another dice to roll for that. So you could have potentially unlimited successes. Now I'll also tell you the consequences of failure. So you're hitting that priest up. You're trying to make that priest your friend. What's a good consequence of failure? I might say that your brother already has agents in the church and you're meeting with one of them. So the fact that you're trying to chummy up this priest is going to be reported right back to your brother because he's a traitor. He's working for your brother.
But you'd have to roll. You'd have to roll to see if that person was a traitor or not, right? I mean, the idea of, well, there's a certain number of people in the congregation that are spies. You'd have to roll to see if the person I'm interacting with was in fact a spy, right?
No rolling. I'm just gonna say if you fail your roll, that's the consequence.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's not rolling to see if he was a traitor. You're gonna roll and the story will change based on whether you succeed or fail that roll.
That's right.
Got it.
And that's why in this game, unlike normal role playing, we can have mass advances in the story. It's never stagnant. It's always going to be based on your beliefs, and you can accomplish great things in a single roll. You're never going to do, I stalk here, then I stalk there, then I need to climb here. You might just tell me, I want to sneak in to the house. I want to sneak into the house. That's going to be a single roll. It's not going to be multiple rolls. Now, if you say, I want to sneak into the king's chamber, that's going to be so fucking difficult that you're probably going to fail, right? But if you tell me, I want to sneak into the guard hut, that might be much easier to do. And all the skills usually have rules around how the obstacles are.
Is that because Elvis is dead? He died in 78. Is that why it would be so difficult to break into his house?
What's that?
At least not until the return of the king.
Yeah, the return. Yeah. It's just, 78. Elvis died in 78. I don't see the point in breaking into his house. But I digress. Sorry.
I had a question about in building our characters. Again, a lot of the rule book is devoted to a magic system, which I imagine doesn't reflect what we're using in the setting. Is there a separate rule for how those things work, or do we even have access to magic given the magic level of the campaign itself?
I would say you can. If you want to be like a spice consumer and you want to kind of have Bene Gesserit powers, sure, why not? What interests you? What gives you agency? And I'm sure there are rules for it in that Burning Jihad book. So, there's a PDF called Burning Jihad that's floating around. And, in there are rules for Dune-like magic. But you could just tell me the Dune-like magic and we can wing it. It's so easy to do. It's not a problem.
Yeah, because when I look at I think it's kind of cool how fleshed out so many mechanics are in this rule system, but I don't exactly know how they translate to Dune because it certainly doesn't seem like one-to-one. There's a lot of things like this doesn't have any place in the setting.
We could have a skill. So in order to get this skill, you could get it in play. Like everything's free form in the Burning Wheel. We could have you do it in play if you really want to do it in play. Or in picking your life paths, you can pick part of the Bene Gesserit. You can be like a gifted person where you have some abilities, but you don't have to be Bene Gesserit. So I would say you could be this person who's somehow been using spice. You could be a Fremen, or you could somehow be this person that's using spice and you've gained some abilities, right? and we're just going to wing it. We're going to give you um, a life path for it. So you're going to take gifted in the life path, and then you're going to have a small skill in it. You might have a 2 or a 3, and then you tell me what you want to do, and I'm going to tell you the obstacles. So if you try to use the voice on someone, we're going to look at their will, and it's going to be a test against their will. And you're probably, if you're not a Bene Gesserit, I don't think your powers are going to be as good as a Bene Gesserit, right?
Mhm.
But if you do play a Bene Gesserit, then you're going to have the same powers that a Bene Gesserit would have. And I'm pretty sure in the book Burning Jihad, there's a kind of Bene Gesserit-like life path. And that's another thing to talk about. This game doesn't have classes. There are life paths. And you're all going to start out with 4 life paths. So you're going to pick which life paths you want. And those life paths are going to give you skills, abilities, and resource points.
So,
good.
because we're not playing with orcs and stuff too, where we kind of we're just going to throw away the concepts of greed and grief and all that. That's not a part of the game. We're just
Right. Now, there is one other part of the game that humans can take, and that is faith. So you can be a priest. You could try priest-like magic. The magic system for priest is pretty easy. I could let you do that. I don't mind doing that. But I don't know much about the other religions in Dune. So I know that the Fremen believed in the Mahdi, so they had their religion, but I'm not sure about the other houses, but we can wing it. If you think of a cool religion that fits in with the Dune universe and you want to do it, let's do it.
I think outside of like the Fremen and some of the more alien species, again, I don't know a lot about Dune. From the core concepts of what I understand, any human-esque faith would fall under essentially the God Emperor.
well
No,
the
no,
orange.
that happened later. So we're at
Oh,
a
okay.
equal point. So Paul Atreides' son or grandson, I forget now, son, I think, became the
It's not
god emperor. He
Lando the
turned,
second.
yeah, he turned himself into a sandworm, and that's a whole story. But we're playing
Yeah.
way before that. So the
Partial.
emperor now is just a human being. He's not the god emperor.
The predominant religion in the Padishah Empire is like what the Bene Gesserit circulate through their propaganda, which is the Orange Catholic Bible, which is basically a bunch of mythology meant to encourage people towards realizing the Kwisatz Haderach.
And the
And then like
Kwisatz Haderach is a being who's supposed to come through breeding, and it's supposed to be a female who's supposed to come through breeding, I believe, who's supposed to come through breeding and be able to be many places at once and have godlike powers. So that
Right.
Bene Gesserit have been trying to breed this being. So I think everybody knows that.
Right, but the legend of the Kwisatz Haderach, they've been thousands of years. They've been crossbreeding the different houses. The idea was to bond the Bene Gesserit to a member of a noble house. The Bene Gesserits would keep their mental powers, right? The Kwisatz Haderach could be either a male or a female, but the idea was they were going to stay in control of it. So the idea is it's still out there, and it hasn't happened yet during this campaign. So it's kind of still up in the air. There could be pretenders to the throne. There could be people pretending to be, I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. What happened in the movie hadn't occurred yet, so it's all kind of up for grabs.
But if you guys come up with a cool idea for a religion, I'm totally, again, this is world burning. So if you say, hey man, I read about this one religion, this other game, and I want to roll this in, we'll do it.
The major religions of Dune are basically based on humanism. There are no aliens, just different breeds of humans. So you could have a religion based on like a deity that's the reverse of of a god human, of breeding for a supreme being, a mortal supreme being. You could have a religion based on the opposite of that, which is like an ethereal creator that, you know, that's the antithesis of all the breeding and the culmination of the. It could be a religion, you know, that's in conflict with the major religion.
The only thing I would say is to tie it into the Dune world is that you must be a spice consumer, that your religion must somehow have gotten into spice consumption, and that's how your miracles
Oh
will
yeah.
work.
I don't know if we mentioned this to you yet, Austin, but another side effect of consuming the spice melange is it like extends your lifespan extensively.
Right,
That's
right.
another part of its commodity value is that it's like anyone that's rich and powerful wants it for that purpose alone.
That's right. The British Emperor is over 200 years old himself, and he consumes the spice. So, Shaddam the Fourth is over 200 years old.
Okay. Okay.
So let's start this out by tell me about. So this is for Narian and Austin. Let's start with who wants to go first.
Why don't you pick somebody? Otherwise, everybody's going to speak.
Maybe we'll go with Narian first because he knows the Dune world so well. Tell me, Narian, about your house.
So whether I was kind of leaning initially when we were talking about other, because like seems like since Bruce is a fairly high status member of his house, right?
Yeah, he is the son of the leader of a house.
Yeah, and so I feel like if you have like I'm in general, even in D&D and stuff, if someone picks like the noble background, I'm usually more inclined to play like a lesser member of that to like kind of bolster the significance of having a noble in the party, you know? So similarly, if he's like close to being the heir, I'd rather be like a courtier or like performer, like a 12-string balisette player in that house that's actually like an espionage operative.
I love it. I love it.
And maybe
So
like
like
I
art.
knew of stuff with his sister, and so I've been like, you know, circulating like, you know, propaganda against Jerry's house for murdering Bruce's sister and all that kind of like, you know, I'm like really because maybe I was a personal friend of hers and I took her death really to heart, and so I have like a vengeance against anyone aligned to, you know, her murderers.
Okay, now, but tell me secretly why you don't like Bruce's character.
Because I think his militaristic folly led to his sister's death. You know, if he had been more measured and heedful, she wouldn't have been slain.
So you're convinced that he's incompetent.
Yeah, or at least short-sighted enough to like, you know, risk the house itself in pursuit of his short-sighted goals.
I love it. Yeah. So what would be the goal that would flow from that? You probably secretly you want to advance the house, but you want to see Bruce's character fail because if he succeeds, you're going to have this bozo running the house.
Yeah, or maybe like because I feel like I can resent him for the loss of the sister without necessarily like wanting him dead or to fail, but I can like maybe think there are people more suited to lead the house, but like still would rather him be in charge than the Harkonnens or something, you know. So like I have a tenuous adherence to his will, but not like, you know, he doesn't have my full support.
Then maybe you're searching for who the true leader of the house should be.
And I think even if I feel that way about Bruce, I have a greater enmity towards Jerry's house because they were the actual ones that murdered her, you know?
Right. Okay.
And then I guess by extension, I'm also not aligned with Braden's house because we've been recently defeated by them in war, right?
Maybe secretly you were in love with Bruce's sister.
Yeah, that's totally the vibe of my bard, essentially space bard character.
I love it. So you're going to be a spy type. That's perfect. And I think, let's say So we said in the story that I think we should run with this, Bruce, is that Bruce has an evil uncle who hates him, his character, and it's the uncle who convinced his father to send him out there, but the uncle hopes that he'll spectacularly fail or be killed. You may or may not know this, but you know that the uncle is talking to you a lot, and he's the one who got Bruce this appointment.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more of like a courtier, diplomat, ambassador type, like trying to, because in my view, I don't know how you guys feel. The Villeneuve Dune to me was really enjoyable. However, it gets away from what I think one of the things the Lynch Dune did really well, which was like depicting how Baroque and, uh, you know, I don't know, excessive and gaudy all of the nobility in the Dune world is. Like, I tend to imagine it when I read it as being more of that than like the minimalist style of Villeneuve. But
Right. No, I get you. Did you see the TV series that came out in
oh yeah,
2000?
yeah. I was actually going to ask you if that was canon because I love all that stuff. I thought that show was great.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I
I
feel like it
loved
gets
it.
a
I
bad
just
rap.
watched it again. All right. Okay. So I think, Austin, you heard about the other characters and you just heard Narian. Tell us about your house.
Arian's over there reading my freaking mind. That's all I'm gonna say. He asked my question prior when it was just the four of us in. Now he's literally on the same path that I am.
You could be
So,
a similar character, but
oh
work for a
yeah,
different house.
yeah.
No
That's
problem.
kind of where I am with a different tune. So what we were talking about with the brutal. So I'll come up with more of like a why, but within the military of Braden's house, um, I was known for being exceptionally brutal, almost to the point of enjoying bloodshed, whether it was civilian, enemy combatant, whatever. To to create strife more so just to help build up the story. The fact that Braden was a well-known general, and he knew who I was within the military, but did not agree with my methods. So in something Narian will understand, in kind of an Angron way,
Hey, how about?
used
Oh, go ahead.
used augments, spice, something to inhibit like feelings within my character so that he could no longer enjoy the bloodshed, and then almost as a punishment for acts that were committed sentenced me to just be an executioner within the house. And I spent years just watching execution after execution happen. And
But yeah, I feel
then
like there's the Ixians. They kind of do a cyborg dehumanizing thing that would suit that. Maybe they send him to Ix to get mods and like
Oh, I love it. I love it.
so
That's deep.
as coming in with however our setting of the group getting together to fight the Harkonnens
Harkonnen.
narrative. Yeah,
Harkonnen.
the Harkonnens. I was chosen because I am was adept in the military world. Even though I was brutal and my methods weren't agreed, I was very good at my job. Was sent with Braden's character as an extra, just kind of oomph of protection and strength for what could need to be done. But because Braden's character was the one that sentenced me to the lack of emotion and being an executioner, I'm not exactly aligned with him.
I got the reason why he did this. How about there's a secret that Braden ordered you to do something during the final battle, and you thought it was way too mellow, and you disobeyed him, and it saved the day. And the truth is that you actually won the battle, not Braden, but he's getting all the credit for it. And that's why he sent you off to X to be reprogrammed so you couldn't tell anyone.
Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna have to write that down real quick.
We're actually recording all of this, so
Oh,
but you
yeah,
can
that's
write
right.
it down. I'm also going to give everybody transcripts, so I feed this into AI and we get transcripts. So we have transcripts of all the sessions.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm still
I'm
gonna write
lazy
it down
that
just so
way.
I can help. That's fair. I would be too.
But I love that. That's a great secret. That could also be one of Braden's beliefs that if he ever thinks you're becoming unprogrammed, he's going to need to take you out. But he needs you because if he doesn't have you, maybe he's kind of self-conscious that if he doesn't have you, he might lose the next battle.
Yeah. So there's like a two-prong there where it's like he can't lose me because he knows that I'm good at my job, but he's scared that if I'm put in this situation again, that it'll re-spark the just enjoy of bloodshed that was taken away from me that could turn on him because I know that he is not the true
Savior that everybody
the
thinks.
savior. Yeah.
This is evil shit, gentlemen. I love it. This is story stuff right here. Now, why does your character hate Bruce's house? What did Bruce's house do to you that you want to be so brutal to them?
So kind of what I'm thinking on backstory right now that I'm just kind of bouncing is prior to finding a place within Jaden's house in the military. I'm kind of running that almost I don't want to say Fremen, but kind of like a Fremen, if I'm understanding it correctly, kind of that lower caste, not really was taken almost as a slave and was sent to be a miner in spice mines. I don't know if that's automated or if it's all done by people as like slaves and
Well,
such.
here's another thing about the Dune world. So many years ago, I think it was 10,000 years ago, there was this thing called the Butlerian Jihad, and it's where the machines tried to take over from the humans, and the humans won. And they said, whoa, no more AI, no more robots. So nothing is automated. That's why you have something called a mentat. So Jerry's character is a mentat, and they are like human supercomputers, but there are no robots or anything like that. They're afraid of that technology.
Okay, so even like a machine that doesn't have like a robot or a computer system in it wouldn't exist, more or less.
It might. There are, I would say that there are the helicopters and the spice gatherers and ornithopters, whatever they are, they are fly by wire, but there's no AI in them.
Okay. Okay. Well, so kind of is that whether it was like as a spice miner, if that's something we want to, which could actually, no, fuck it. I'm going to say I was traded as a slave, brought into a house as a slave. And because of mining spice and being exposed to raw spice, it's kind of heightened the enjoyment of just violence and bloodshed. And that's why I'm so overly violent and enjoying of the bloodshed. But through the hardship of multiple houses, because I wasn't just a slave of one house in my early years, I was traded through multiple houses, and Bruce's house could have been one of those houses that treated me a tad bit more cruelly than another house.
Yeah, I like that. So you were a slave in Bruce's house and you were mistreated. Oh, dude, what if you were mistreated by Bruce's evil uncle?
There
You
it
were a
is.
slave of Bruce's evil uncle and you escaped and you hate their house because of that. And you want revenge. Murderous, bloody revenge.
Isn't Bruce like the military mastermind, or is the uncle someone in their house is like a tactical.
It's Jaden's
No,
character. That's why.
Braden is the military
Braden.
genius, quote unquote, who
Gotcha.
defeated Bruce's house. Bruce's
Gotcha.
house just lost a war. What his house is known for is wealth. They
Gotcha.
are wealthy.
Oh, well. And there you go. On top of being mistreated as a slave, just the fact that they live in the wealth when I came from poverty is just another baseline kind of hatred of the higher class.
I love it. I love it. So, Jerry, tell me about how you feel about this Bard character.
I like it a lot.
Playing.
I like it a lot. Everybody is developing their characters. I mean, I like it all.
Well, what sort of, do you have a relationship? Well, here's the thing about the game. In the game, every player character knows each other. So what do you dislike about his character?
About whose?
Narian's bard-like character who it works for Bruce's character.
I guess my character is a mentat, so he sees him as a he doesn't know anything aside from the fact that he's a bard and nothing else. So he holds him in some contempt. He doesn't see him as showing any kind of loyalty towards anyone. He's just an entertainer, another kind of servant. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I serve a house. My loyalty is to the house. He's just a performer. No offense. I don't know anything more about him, but I imagine I hold him in some slight regard. You know?
Do you think he's dangerous to your house? Is he
No,
dangerous?
I don't know anything more. I don't know anything more about him other than he's a bard. I may have had, a bad, he may have mocked me once during a performance. He may have written a song about me that shamed me in front of my lord. And maybe since then I've had a grudge against him. He made a song about how my lord won me in a game of chance and then freed me. And then I spent 3 days in front of his house waiting. I was 7 years old. I had nowhere to go. My mind had been wiped. And then during my mentat training, some of my memory came back about my family and, them being wiped out and turned into slaves. And so maybe during a performance, he made a fool of me by singing a song about it that made everyone laugh but myself. And now I have this, grudge against him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm definitely like maybe not directly targeting the mentat, but I would definitely be known as someone who like denounces your house for the murder of Bruce's sister. You know, so that alone would put me at odds with you, and to a certain extent.
Sure. It would be a matter of honor. So yeah, then I'd be thinking of ways to shut you up or shut you down. That's good.
Bruce, what do you think about this bard? What don't you like about the bard?
Who's the bard? Narian?
Yeah.
Yeah. He works.
I
You
like
think
Narian.
somehow he's aligned with your evil uncle. Somehow. They communicate too often.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm aligned to him, but I have to be careful about, since he seems to be aligned with my evil uncle, I have to keep my eye, on him. But generally speaking, I think he's a good guy and like him. And
okay, that's fair enough. Maybe then that you your uncle's evil, but you've never been able to convince your dad of it. So your dad's like, no, he's such a great guy. Like he doesn't, and you think somehow that Narian's character is aligned with your evil uncle. He's like taking orders from him or something.
Yeah, I just got to keep my eye on him. That's the name of that game.
Okay, and Narian,
and
what
the
do
fact
you think
that
about? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the fact that he dated my sister. That's what made me like him. And
Oh, he wouldn't have been allowed to date your
Yeah.
sister because
Maybe I penned a
he's
suggestive
not.
ballad once.
You just know he had the hots for your sister.
yeah,
It was a forbidden
Yeah.
romance going
I'm
on with
far too beneath her
so we
station for
flirted
that.
with inappropriately, you would add.
Yeah, unrequited. Possibly. We don't know.
We don't know. I don't like absolutes. We don't know anything. So let's go with Narian. What do you think about Austin's character?
As an extension of Braden's like kind of militarist house, I guess I would view him as like the fullest encapsulation of their brutality and militarism. Since he's like emotionless, he's kind of the antithesis of the emotional, sentimental poet character. He's like the emotionless killing machine.
How are you going to shut him down? What's your goals with him?
Yeah,
How are you going to
like,
make him like not as effective?
Yeah, like I feel like a character with minimized emotion and like who's I guess you're probably more like apolitical in that you're like you probably solve problems in a very direct and pragmatic, like lethal way. He's almost like he's almost like a mentat to me. Like I wouldn't even know how to deal with a character like that. So I'll just probably keep him play my cards as close to my chest and keep him at the greatest distance because I wouldn't know how to manipulate him or understand his motivations like I would a fellow courtier or a noble.
You know what?
Actually-
How about so? Because that leaves you kind of goalless with him. What if you had a goal that you know he's a hothead, and you're gonna constantly, but carefully, subtly, you're always gonna try to direct it where he gets in confrontation with various random badasses until eventually he's taken out.
All right, I'm just gonna like poison the well against him in the hopes that some bigger hothead takes him out. Is that
Right. And you know he's such a hothead, he'll agree to a duel instantly because he's all about that, right?
So, but I probably wouldn't let him know that directly. I would probably like to him be a fanboy and be like, yeah, I think you can take this guy. Like you could totally fuck him up.
Exactly.
Yeah. You would be my hype man when
Yeah.
in the background you're secretly wanting me to fall.
Yeah. That sounds pretty slippery.
Perfect. Now, Austin, what does your character think about Jerry's house? So Jerry's house had the Lord that is going mad. He's like overdosing on spice. He can no longer have children, allegedly, but you know they're constantly shuffling different powerful women over to him to see if he can have a child. They're desperate to have him have a child. He's like in Henry VIII mode, right? He's going through women, but he also has bouts of madness. You know that sometimes they have to whisk him away out of a meeting because he's like King Charles VII, you know, the mad king of France. He's having all these bouts where he goes into insanity and they drag him away, and the house people cover for him. So you know that Jerry's character is always covering for him and helping him out. But what are your thoughts about what don't you like about Jerry's house?
Okay. For Jerry's house, I think from what I'm viewing of the character and how the houses are rolling, I would say that I would just hold the general military animosity against Jerry's house just because we are rivals as a houses in general.
Right. You know, one thing to point out is you know that you guys lost the first battle because Jerry's house came in. They knew where you were staging all of your supplies.
Oh, yeah.
And they stole all your supplies right before the first battle. And you lost divisions because of that. I mean, it was, you went there for the weaponry and all of a sudden you had no supply and you were fucked. You know, everybody thought at that point you were going to lose the war. And that's when the very next battle, you guys pulled out some amazing win. But you know that Jerry's house definitely caused you to almost lose the war.
So I can hold that animosity 100%. And then for Jerry being a mentat specifically, this is Narian's gonna like this. I would kind of view it as the way like a Ogren from 40K looks at a psyker. Like the Ogren doesn't have the emotions and is kind of just a big bumbling child, and looks at psychers with all these magical abilities with a tad bit of animosity just because they don't understand what they can do, and it concerns them with what they could be capable of doing.
Cool. Now I got to ask you another question. This one's for Austin. Austin, tell me about a character, not one of the players, but about a character that you trust the most. Who is that?
Oh.
An NPC. This will be an NPC that you truly trust. You can think about that, because I'm going to ask that to Narian now. Who is an NPC? And it doesn't even have to be anyone we mentioned. This is an NPC that you truly trust, that is always there for you. Tell me about that person.
I feel like my Balicet teacher, probably, I imagine her as some like wizened, musician, and she like a lot of my values are informed by her. I feel like also secret part of his thing is like he's like secretly like a radical egalitarian, kind of like an upstart leftist dissident that kind of hates the aristocratic system but doesn't know how to resist it overtly. But that like comes from his, his music teacher, but he doesn't really have a lot of people he can confide that in.
And maybe she's a nobody in house politics, and people hold that against you because you're friends with this person. But where is she from then?
As I don't really know where our houses or this moon for the fuel additive are, I'll leave that to you. Like whatever makes the most sense on this planet.
What if she's now your Bruce's wife is a Bene Gesserit heretic. She was kicked out of the Bene Gesserit order, and she's a heretic. They actually want to eliminate her. She's a heretic. So is your instructor a Bene Gesserit or a former Bene Gesserit?
Yeah, maybe I don't even know that.
Premise.
Like maybe she has those skills and the voice and she knows that stuff, but to me it just manifests as like, oh, she's really influential and musically talented, because I don't have the understanding of what that would even mean.
But I'm going to leave that up to you. You tell me about her background. And how important is she? She could be, now, the more important this person is that you're describing, the more expensive it's going to be. So this is an ally you're going to buy that you can have whenever you need help. Whenever you need help, you can summon this ally at any time.
I guess that really is up to you as to how influential or significant you want to make the loosely affiliated like insurrectionary musician collective that she informs. Like if you want to make them a powerful,
up to you, man. This is you get full agency. You tell me. And the more influential she is, the more expensive in resource points she's going to cost. So you want to be careful about that. But you can cheapen that by making her a member of your family, or immediate family, even cheaper. Or you could have some forbidden relationship with her, or romantic relationship, or both, romantic and forbidden.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I'm
imagining
solve that now. Keep that in the back of your head. That's how when we create your characters, you're all going to create an extra character that you can summon when you need help. Yep. That character can also die and be at risk, so you want to be careful. Like Bruce was thinking about having his father be that character. But whenever he brings his father there in gameplay, his father can be killed. So it's going to be very risky. But it could be so like that would be a super expensive relationship because that character is so powerful. But the less powerful they are, so like Jerry has a relationship with this cook who's just a cook in his house, but she's a Fremen, and secretly she knows how to fight with the Chris knife. But she's so unimportant that she's going to be a very cheap relationship to have.
So
But
are
as
there
a- as a-
off-world Fremen?
Go ahead.
Are
Go
there
ahead.
off-world Fremen?
They are,
Yeah,
but
Fremen-
people
yeah.
travel around. You can have somebody who's
Yeah, I
an
just feel
off-
like because the Harkonnens and the spacing, like they're kind of like second. They're kind of I wouldn't want to draw comparisons to any real world oppressed people, but they exist in a state that does not permit them free travel.
right. But that doesn't mean they can't. I remember in the story, they had spies, and they were communicating with, I think it was the Spacing Guild. So they have ways of getting off planet. It's impossible to enforce that kind of thing. Look at us with our borders, right? We have people penetrating our borders. There
Free
were
Iraq.
people escaping Russia. It can be done.
Yeah, I would have been a proponent of the two-state Harkonnen Fremen solution. Yeah, so well, in that case, maybe she's a renegade. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of having Fremen allies, but if we already have someone who has a connection to that, well, and if we don't intend to get there in the campaign anyway, I guess it's less relevant.
Yeah, she could be someone working against your house. That would be interesting.
Well, and the cook in my kitchen could be working against my house. That I've confided in her, and the Fremen that's working undercover in my kitchen is trying to gather information to help Arrakis. So the me turning to her as like a mother figure, because I don't have one, and someone I confide in, she could be working undercover for the Fremen gathering information.
It could be. It could be that your Fremen cook is the one who poisoned your lord and made him into this mad spice guy.
Very, very possible. Very possible. And then
Secret
later,
that your character doesn't know yet.
right? It could be. And then I would be torn between my lord and someone I consider as a mother figure.
Yeah, but you don't know that she poisoned your lord. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying it definitely happened. You don't know it, but it's a possibility.
Well, there could be rumors of things. There could be rumors that I couldn't validate, but would keep me open, my options open.
You know what? I will make it. I'll be that guy who introduces that at some point in gameplay through one of your failure rules. I may make that a consequence of failure.
Well, another conflict for me would be if my lord had a child and then went mad to kill the mother and child, and I had to choose between the house and my lord, because I'm supposed to be devoted to both. But if I honor my lord, then it's the end of the house because he's going to kill the wife and child, and if I kill him, then I end his life and my life debt to him. So that could be very sticky too.
Yeah.
Just a possibility. I'm not saying necessarily we should do it, but
So, Narian Austin, are you getting a sense of your character?
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of narrative, I think so. As far as how this translates to building the character in the rule system, I'm not entirely sure how that translates onto the character sheet, but I'm sure when the time comes, maybe I can ask you some more questions about that.
Oh, yeah. We're all going to do this together. We're going to go through the building of characters. We might do that next session or the session after that. I want to go slowly so everybody doesn't feel rushed and you feel you're in love with your story. The next step, before we can even roll up your characters, you need 3 beliefs, 3 strong beliefs that drive your character, because that's going to drive play. Without those beliefs, you're not going to be able to drive play. You're also going to need 3 instincts, and you're going to need 3 traits, Plus, you're going to need a couple of traits from your house. So Bruce and you will share those traits. And then Braden and Austin will share those. So there are going to be house traits, your own traits. So we already know one of Austin's traits, and that is I think there's something called murderous or whatever. He's got that trait for sure, or bloodthirsty. So he's got that one trait, and that's called a character trait. I won't dive too much into traits right now, but just know you're going to have house traits and your own traits. Now you're going to have something called instincts, and an instinct would be, it's usually with a word always or never. So like I had a character in a Conan-like world, and one of his instincts was that he never set his hammer down. He always walked around with a hammer. So the GM could never say, "Oh, you don't have your hammer," or "your hammer was taken away from you." Nope. I never set my hammer down. I always have my hammer. So that was one of my instincts. Or it could be I have a different character, and one of her instincts is that whenever I am in danger, I'm going to throw a dagger. So whenever she feels in danger, she is going to throw a dagger at someone. Wherever the danger is coming from, she's going to throw a dagger. That is going to happen. It's one of her instincts. Now, when instincts get you into trouble, they earn you Artha. But they can also save you. I'm never without my armor. There was another character who said, "I will never be cornered. I will never be cornered." So that's one of their instincts. But that's an instinct that will keep them out of trouble. An instinct that it may get them into trouble too, because they may come into something being so suspicious and not wanting to be in a corner that they can't be persuasive. You know what I mean? And if you say, "I always throw a dagger when I'm in danger," what if I'm in a court and suddenly I'm on trial? I'm going to throw a dagger. That is probably a very bad idea. That's going to get me into trouble. But you don't have to pick those now. Keep that in the back. What we are going to need to pick soon are your beliefs. And your beliefs should be tied to what we just talked about in the story. 3 of them.
And so they should be 3, and then each of them should be 3-part, like long-term, middle, and immediate. Is that how you frame them?
Because if they're not actionable, you're not going to be able to get persona from them. So you want to earn, if you could, an amazing day for you would be to earn fate and persona for all 3 of your beliefs in one session. That'd be amazing. And the way to do that, you earn a fate for pursuing your belief. So when I come to you and I say, "What belief are you going to pursue?" As soon as you are able to pursue it, you're going to get a fate. Now, if you accomplish the minimal goal, whatever that short-term goal is, you get a persona. But I need to know what that is. It can't be vague. "Oh, I'm just going to try to influence the church." That's way too vague. I need something exactly specific. I am going to go and meet with the church official and befriend them. That's specific. I can say that happened, and I can award you a persona if it does happen.
You can't measure success or failure unless it's specific.
It's got to be specific. What we call actionable.
Got it.
So start with 3 high-level beliefs. Don't worry about actionable yet. We don't need actionable until the day we're ready to play. But I'm going to need you guys to start thinking about 3 high-level beliefs. So one of your beliefs, like for Narian, could be, "I'm going to expose Bruce's character for the incompetent person he is," or I'm going to, the long-term belief could be, "Who is the next true leader of my house? I want to find out who that is." And Bruce might, in the game, convince you it's him. Right?
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing I was wondering, is like, I get that it's fun to have the tension in the game, and then we're aligned with some greater goal. But do we is the game is baked into the mechanics the idea that we're antagonistic to one another largely, or can we eventually become like a well-oiled cooperative machine?
You know what? Here's the thing. What is going to make the best story? Maybe you all, the story comes out that you all decide that, wow, we are this awesome team. We come together. Or you guys break into factions, and the end of the game is when your two factions duke it out, and which three of the players live and which three die. What's the best story?
And I guess so that's something from a lifetime of playing TTRPGs I might have to rethink, because the don't split the party thing, like that's so built into the mechanics of a lot of other RPGs. So in this one, should we be prepared to like kind of be off doing our own thing a lot?
Yeah, well, here's the danger, I would say, the weakness of the Burning Wheel is if you don't have beliefs about the other characters, you can all of a sudden shoot out into space and do random stuff. So the party has to be united through beliefs. You should have one belief about another character in the game, not a player character in the game. You should have a belief about. And it could be that you have a mission belief as well. And this mission belief is going to be the removal or destruction of this Harkonnen unit. It's not all of Harkonnen, but it's some minor member of the Harkonnen house who's decided to muscle in on you. And so you all should have a common belief of let's get rid of this motherfucker, or let's make it so unprofitable for them that they decide to pull out on their own so we don't start a war.
Okay, so like I'm just kind of, for like my character, I just have two quick beliefs that I just jotted real quick. For like my character, I could be like, one could be like find proof or proof in general that Braden's character is not the true savior of the battle, or at least get Braden's character to admit that I am the true receiver of the merit and that it's not him.
I would love it. That's a great belief, man. That's going to drive a shitload of story. And then you might, in game, find out, you know what? If it wasn't for Braden, we wouldn't have won. Even though I did do that one thing, you might, at the end of the day, earn a deed because you say, you know what? I'm wrong. Braden is the shit. He is a master strategist. I am going to align with him. And you sacrifice your belief for Braden. That would be a deed-worthy Arthas award.
All right.
But it would have to come over time. You couldn't come in the first session and go, oh, Braden, you're right. I was wrong. Yeah. It has to be something where you struggle against Braden and you come to this epiphany that, wow, the dude is amazing. I was wrong. I wouldn't have even been there to do that if it wasn't for Braden's strategic thinking.
Yeah.
Or it could be, I kill Braden. Braden is gone. I've taken him out because he's full of shit. I was the right character. And yes, we don't want that to happen immediately. So we don't want everybody to be in this. But it would be a great, at the end of the game, whenever that happens, if you go the other way, that you're and his character throw down, man. May the better man win.
Yeah.
So would that be a situation where the robust tactical rule set comes out?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Fight mechanics will come out.
Like, I was like looking through the book.
That's
I'm like,
a belief.
So much of the book is like these kind of what seem to be like the edge case mechanics of the fighting system. And I'm like, if most of it's resolved through the normal thing, it's like, what? This is a lot of pages to devote to a thing that's the exception, not the rule,
Yeah. Well, the more the beliefs come into play, especially grand dramatic moment, the more we go to what's called the rim of the wheel. We use the rim tactics. There's also, so your characters are at odds with each other, right? How are you going to resolve that? There's a rule set for resolving that, and it's beautiful. It's called Duel of Wits.
Mm-hmm.
So if your character wants to do one thing and another character wants to do a different thing, you might have a duel of wits contest. And it's great because you get all these tests for your character and you start leveling up your skills. And you can either come to a compromise or one character can totally destroy the other and decide which way they're going to do things.
Yeah, it's a really interesting system. It's kind of unlike, I've played a lot of things. It's unlike every other, even the more like open sandboxy, like GURPS style stuff. It's like, it's kind of in its own league. Like Burning Wheel's very, very unique.
Oh, dude, that's why I said Burning Wheel will change the way you think about role playing. It will
How
change
does how does the story resolve itself eventually? Where do we get to a point where, regardless of who's killed off or who's allied or who's in conflict with one another, how do we know when the story reaches its conclusion? Is there
It should be obvious
how will we go
when
about?
the story's coming to a conclusion, when two characters are getting to the point where they want to murder each other, two players, or it gets to the point where, it's the players unite and it's the players against the Harkonnen, and the game may not even end there. Let's say you throw off the Harkonnen. Maybe we decide we're loving the game so much we want to move to the second chapter of the story. Maybe that's where you become convinced that everybody becomes convinced that the Lord's next child is gonna become the Quetzalcoatl Haderach, and you guys have it out with the Bene Gesserit. I don't know. Who knows, right?
You're saying the longer we play the game, the more we realize whether or not it has legs or not.
I think the game will have legs because you are playing the exact character you want to play, and you're pursuing the goals you want to pursue. I always in this game fell in love most quickly with my characters because it was just I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, playing the exact character I wanted to play. And the story, my section of the story was exactly what I wanted to do. I just found it. I've had so many amazing stories, and my characters have been in the one example I've already said to you guys. What I think is a great example is that the character that I had was this young girl who was like a Joan of Arc like character, trying to convince everybody that she was the hand of God. And I got myself into some serious fucking trouble. Where the game is, I'm actually still in serious fucking trouble. But it's just so exciting and amazing. I went in to convince the church that I'm the hand of God, and I had 4 fucking persona to spend on the roll. It was almost guaranteed success, and I fucked it up, man. And the end result was that they were gonna burn me at the stake. That was the
I knew it.
consequence
I
of
knew it.
failure. Yep. And another player saved me. Another player came in and talked the church into only torturing me into confessing that I wasn't the hand of God. And then another character helped me escape. But now I'm on the lam, on the run. It's so exciting.
So, in the past, as someone who has no experience with the rule system, does it lend itself well to just like dropping it into other settings, or does it kind of have you experienced it in settings other than like your standard high fantasy? Like, have you played?
Oh, I would say that if it's not, I would say it's not high fantasy, it's more low fantasy. But I would say that there are other, I don't want to call them products, but fan-made stuff where they've created life paths. So there's life paths for Star Wars, There's a bunch of people have gotten together to do different life paths for the game.
Yeah, if you find because I've got the Burning Empires book and the Codex and the Burning Wheel, but I don't have the Burning Sands, and I'm having a difficult time finding the PDF. So if you get your hands on that, would you
I
drop
gave you
that?
that. Didn't I give
Oh,
you a link to the
I
Burning
got.
Sands?
I thought I have the gold edition and I have Burning Empires, but I didn't. Maybe I missed a link in the chat.
Oh, I'll send you Burning Jihad then.
Gotcha.
You can't buy it, so it's not pirating. You can't buy Burning Jihad. It's I guess they got a cease and desist letter from the Frank Herbert estate.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like not at all. I'm a fucking Marxist, so I don't care about intellectual property rights. I've already given the developer of Burning Wheel my money for his core book. That's plenty enough for me.
Oh, you did? Wow. Good.
Oh yeah, I wanted a physical copy. It's such a beautiful book, but
You did more
you
than
won't
me.
regret it. The core books to have are the Burning Wheel Gold Revised, the Codex, and the Anthology. I would say those 3 books are important to have. And other than that, there's a lot of fan-made material. So there's Falling Blossoms, which is Burning Wheel in Japan. Then there's Burning Jihad, which is Dune. Then there's Under a Dark Sun, I think it's called, or Under a Serpentine Sun. I haven't examined that. I heard it's a really
like Dark Sun, like Conan the Barbarian type shit.
No, oh, there is a Conan one as well. There's a fan-made Conan one. I'm playing in the Hyborian world in Burning Wheel. That's a tough one.
The supplement I have right now is the Burning Empires one, and it has a lot of interesting like alien stuff and like power armor and like, but it doesn't seem like it applies very well to what we're doing. It seems like it's a different.
I think that one is more like the Warhammer.
Yeah, it seems like
kind of what I was getting to.
Yeah,
that's exactly Warhammer. I don't know that much about Warhammer, but I believe that was based off of Warhammer. And then there's
Hey Austin, what's your faction in Warhammer
40K? You want me to get the models?
I'm a Tau guy myself.
I've got a lot of models.
Oh wow.
So and as far as PvP in the game, if you guys feel uncomfortable with it, drive the story to you guys uniting. That's okay too. You guys certainly don't have to do that if you feel uncomfortable. Remember, this is all about player agency. You guys take the game where you want it to take it. I'm only there to fuck with you. I'm there to put shit in your way, to come up with good consequences of failure. I'm going to ask you for help too. Like if Bruce is doing something and I can't think of a great consequences of failure, I'm going to say, hey guys, what should the consequences of failure be for this role? So we're going to make it collaborative for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like, we're all mature adults that can distinguish our in-person interactions from the game. So I'm not going to take anything personally if you guys kill my character. I'm not. No. That's half the fun.
I've played D&D for so many years and I've lost so many characters to infighting that in story and just character progression work that is totally understandable, and I have no animosity to those people. So
another thing about this is when your character is weak, you become strong quickly because it's so easy to raise your stats when they're low, your skills. Once your skills start getting high, it becomes really difficult. There's also something called shade shifting. So you can actually shade shift your stats, which is extremely hard. So in shade shifting, your normal stats are black. You can shade shift them to gray, which means that if you roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, that's a success.
Yeah.
And you can shade shift to white, which is if you roll a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, that's success. But if you have a white, so if you have a gray shaded skill, you are like the best in the land. If you had a gray shaded sword skill, you'd be the best on your planet at swordsmanship. If you had a white shaded, you are the best in the universe at your sword. That's how shade shifting works, but it's super rare. And the only way to shade shift is to earn enough Artha in the skill. So you need to shade shift to gray, you need 20 fate, 10 persona, and 3 deeds spent on a skill to shade shift.
Can
So
you lose? Can you lose your shade shift?
No. No.
Okay, so once you got it,
There's
you got
something
it.
called a temporary epiphany where you can shade shift for one session. I've never seen that happen. It's pretty rare. I think it's kind of a waste of Artha. Don't do it, but pretty rare.
So it's like hepatitis. Once you got it, you've got it.
Yeah. But it would take many, many, many sessions, probably 30 game sessions for us to even have someone close to shade shifting. It's pretty rare. Pretty rare.
You know, one of my favorite science fiction writers, he does a beta testing like this, and they basically throw ideas at him from different characters in his stories. And it gives him insight because it's not one man trying to reason and create all these characters based on his own understanding. What we're doing here is actually creating a story that may or may not be, and with time would get better and better, but
Which
it's
author
this
is
is
that?
this is storytelling.
Come to the great work together to create a great story. And if that story involves one or more characters dying, maybe a character voluntarily is going to die to make the story so epic, right? The final battle, maybe in the final battle with the Harkonnen, someone decides this is where my character is going to have their great death. Or no, maybe you guys overcome it. It's however you guys want to play it out. Well, your character may die through no fault of your own. Now, here's another important point. If you have a persona, try never to go to 0 persona. Because if you have at least one persona, you can prevent your character's death. Something shitty will happen to you instead of dying, but you will not die. In fact, I think I spent a persona when my character was going to be burned at the stake, not to be burned at the stake. I think that's how I
But if you
avoid
have one persona, you don't want to obviously spend it because you would die. So you want to wait till you had 2 before you took a chance in spending 1, correct?
Yeah, so you're going to start off with 2 fate and 1 persona. And in the game, after every session, we're going to go into an Arsa award. And we're going to say, tell me about the instincts that got you into trouble. Tell me about the traits that got you into trouble. And tell me about what beliefs you pursued. So you're going to get fate for all of that. 1 fate for each. And then tell me about the beliefs that you succeeded in doing, that short-term actual belief. You're going to get a persona for that. And we're going to do that for everybody. And then when that's done, we're going to go into the major Arthur Award. And that is who was the workhorse, who was the MVP, who embodied their character the most. And that's how to get a persona for one of those 3. And that's the reward to make you focused on role-playing your character and accomplishing your beliefs.
And so is that MVP thing, is that like democratized? Are we like voting on that at the end of the session?
Yeah, you guys will vote. I don't vote. You guys vote. You tell me who earned the MVP, who earned embodiment, if any. You don't have to give it. If nobody was really playing their character well, don't give it. And who was the workhorse? Who always had the right skills to help the party achieve its goals?
That's cool.
Yeah. And this game you don't tell me again what skill you're going to use. You tell me, I mean, you do tell me your intent and task, but I make you role play it out. And depending upon how you role play it, I'm then going to tell you what skill I think you were using. And again, the skills that you use are the skills you're going to get better at. So if you start lying a lot, you are going to become an excellent liar. If you start using a lot of diplomacy, you're going to become an expert at diplomacy. You know, that kind of thing.
Sounds good. We're going to develop the skills we use the most.
I think this is a good ending spot because I think you guys have a lot to think about. Start thinking about your beliefs for next session.
Got it.
Thinking about your beliefs. Yeah, and write down that character that is going to be your helper. By the way, one other system I want to explain is when you want to talk to somebody, so you know all the players. You can talk to them at any time. You can talk to your relationships anytime you want. You can summon them. But if you want to talk to anyone else, you must use the circle skill. And the circle skill is your ability to find or talk to someone else. And if you successfully circle up someone enough, they become one of your relations and you no longer have to circle them up. But in order to circle someone up, you must share a life path with them. So you might have to call upon your relation, that one person you trust, to help you circle up because you don't share a life path with the person you're trying to circle up. Or you may work with one of the players in the group, like Bruce's character or Austin's character or whoever, Jerry's character, to help you circle up that person that you need because you don't share a life path.
Pete, when do you want to get together next?
What's that?
When do you want to get together next? When do you want to meet again?
And is Sunday at 9 good for everybody?
It's good for me.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, that's the best. Thursdays right now kind of hard, but I can do it. But I prefer like Sunday night, like this time.
Yeah, Thursdays will be hard for me because I'm West Coast, so I'm starting at 6 o'clock, and my job is gonna start keeping me past to about 6 o'clock. So even by the time I make it home, I'm 45 minutes late.
So Sunday is good for you?
Yeah, Sunday is good for me.
Narian?
Yeah, generally Sundays are good. There is one Sunday out of the month where I perform mass. But I think generally it's wrapped up in time for me to be here by 9, but there may be once a month where I'm just a little bit late getting in, but other than that, fine.
I don't think that's a problem. You know, especially in the way this game works, we can start on somebody else's beliefs. So the way the game is going to work is we're going to start randomly with one person, then we're going to walk through each person until you get a chance to pursue a belief. And you can help. And if you help, helping is a great way to build your skills up. Because if you help somebody, your skill will gain a test. And tests help you level your skills. You'll also share in the consequences of failure, however.
I've got one request. Would everyone in the chat be willing to just like text their name? Because right now I'm just seeing a bunch of numbers and I don't know who anybody is. So it's like a little bit confusing for me. But once I put you in my contacts, I'd be able to know like, oh, that was Gerald saying this or Austin saying this. If we're going to use the text as a way to communicate.
Oh, yeah, I think we should, because I think the text is a great way to stay in communication. So for sure, text you know what, everybody? Text your name and your phone number, and then they'll be able to look it up.
Good. Yes. I'm also on Facebook as well.
Yeah, I'm not on any social media, unfortunately.
I wasn't.
Or fortunately, for that matter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had too much time, too much OPSEC training once I went through a PSYOP to ever want to mess with those corporate platforms.
I don't blame you.
Getting on this rather than encrypted Discord or Signal is already feels risky for me.
Question, Austin, is that a Yaojua behind you?
Yauta, yes.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'd move to her.
This was a
Also known-
very drunk buy. Because it also plasma caster? No. It has
That looks amazing.
it has all the lights to it. So the
That's cool.
yeah, the mask lights up and then the plasma caster on the side lights up blue too. That was a very drunk buy.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That
Hey
I
guys, I'm
bought.
gonna stop recording.
Oh, yeah.